Hello, everybody. It's great to have you again here back on our channel. My name is Amara.
And my name is Gospel.
Amazing, amazing. So if you're joining us for the first time, you're warmly welcome to this community. Please let us know where you're watching from. And for all our returning subscribers, it's always a joy to have you. I can see some people have joined in. Kenneth Club, welcome. Nice to have you here. Foundation for Family Affairs, our people, we love you. We see you guys. Nice to have you here as well. I want to ask you, please let us know where you're watching from. It's great to know who is right here with us. So at least we know we are right here in Leicester, United Kingdom, and we are co-hosting on Relationship Builders Forum. So today we'll be having an amazing conversation. Okay, and we will be featuring a number of persons, but we would let you know as they come on board. We'll definitely bring them on board and we'll let you know who they are and where they're watching from. Hi, Shadrach, we see you. We're watching all the way from Loughborough. Nice to have you here. Nice to have you. Okay, whilst we're waiting for other people to join in, maybe if you want to say something, whilst we wait for people to log in.
Well, all I have to say is that it's been an amazing weekend. I don't know where you're watching from or if you're enjoying your weekend as well, like I am. You know, sometimes you just have to use the weekend as time to chill with family, time to, you know, catch up for those who like to watch movies. My wife likes to watch movies, so she tries to catch up with the movies she has not seen for within the week. Okay, so but one of the things we like to do during our weekends is to talk about issues that have to do with relationship, what we think that someone out there would want to listen to or would find quite interesting or helpful. Because obviously, if you're enjoying your marriage, you would take it for granted the fact that a lot of people are actually going through what I call hell in their marriages, and they're thinking, God, how can I get out of this? And some people will be thinking, what's the solution out there? And that's why we do what we do, you know, to help people to have a kind of understanding of what they can do to have the best of marriage. And for singles out there, sometimes they say, you guys talk about marriage, it has nothing to do with us. The fact is, if you don't know what you're going to do in your marriage, you get in there and you're confused. So for singles, I think this is also important. And we would say, if you're listening to us and you know a single person out there who is ready for marriage, but the person is not yet married, you can actually send this link to them. Let them just come in and let's have this conversation together. Marriage is beautiful. It's wonderful. I am loving my marriage. Someone said, I saw a post yesterday and the person said, since you've been married, what are the changes that have happened in your life? What are the things you can say that you've achieved after your marriage? I said to myself, the person doesn't even want to go there for me because I know my life has taken a 360-degree turn since I've been married. And if you see the smiles, you know it's coming from the depth of my heart because I've been enjoying my marriage. And this is what we want other people to do. You can enjoy your marriage. Whether you're single, whether you're married, you go into marriage with that expectation that things will work out fine because it depends on you. And if you're married and things are not working out fine, you should also know that it depends on you and your spouse.
That's true.
So let me stop talking.
Yes, we can see that some other people are joining as well. You're warmly welcome, Liz. Always good to have you here. Like you did say, please, if you want to share the link to other people and get them to jump in, we're going to be having an amazing conversation today. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know if you guys are. We are going to be talking about breaking relationship walls. Breaking relationship walls. And somebody out there might be asking, why this topic? Why are we, why do we want to have this conversation today? Now, we know that relationship walls basically are barriers to deep level intimacy and successful relationship. So until those barriers are actually broken, until those barriers are dealt with, first of all, you need to identify those barriers. What are the barriers? And then you now begin to think about, how do I navigate those barriers? If we don't get to that point, and this is a point where a lot of people are in their relationship, and this is why they are not able to have access to each other emotionally and share their lives, especially the deeper things in terms of their relationship.
Yeah, like you said, just look at barriers as when you want to access a building, and there is a wall. If you don't have a key to the door, you can't access the building.
Sure.
And if you want to access through the window, either you break the window to jump in, which is not even the right thing to do. So barriers are limitations. Whatever thing that stops you from having access, could be emotional access, it could be physical access, it could actually be spiritual access to your spouse or someone you want to get into a serious relationship with. Those are barriers. Whatever limits intimacy in marriage or even before marriage is a barrier. So those are the things we are going to talk about today. When you talk about barriers, you could look at communication walls. You could also look at physical walls. Well, physical walls, we can look at that when we look at those who are already married. You maybe sexual walls, if I want to be very explicit. And you can also look at emotional walls. And those walls are built. It's not like God.
Psychological as
well. Mental, whatever. And social walls as well. Those walls are not there by default. It's not like we were born with barriers. We are not born with relational walls. Something happened along the line that someone decided to build those walls. For instance, if someone has been through so many things growing up, maybe physical abuse, maybe verbal abuse, maybe you lived in an environment where you didn't believe in yourself, someone spoke things about you or to you that destroyed your self-image, you would definitely find a way to protect yourself.
That's true.
And one of the ways, which is not a good way, is to build that defense mechanism by blocking people from accessing your heart.
That's true.
So that's what we mean by barrier.
So you become inaccessible in your relationship, and it's more, and for some people they become like two strangers or two roommates living together because there are levels that you don't want that person to have access to. And like you said, there are a lot of things, a lot of experiences, a lot of traumas that people have had to go through that have caused them to put up those walls. And now they find it difficult to let down those walls because that is the only way they feel protected. That is the only way they feel safe, right? So look, I cannot allow someone into that safe space, this person is saying, if I don't trust you. I cannot begin to let down those barriers or let down those walls if I feel threatened. So basically, I'm just going to be all by myself. I'm not going to let anybody access me because I'm trying to protect myself, right? Now, we know that people go through a lot because, of course, we are all work in progress, and some people have experienced a lot of things before now, and that have caused them to become the way they are, or that have caused them to put up those walls. Now, you're watching us right now. Please let us know what are other things that could cause people to put up walls in their relationship. We really want to hear you. We really want to know what you think about this. The reason why we're having this conversation is that we think that a lot, what makes up a relationship are the individuals that come into the relationship, right? So you come in with, who you are, you come in with a process that you have been through, you come in with the baggages that, everyone has been through stuff, right? So our relationship is basically who we are, right? So we come into our relationship with all of these things. And sometimes we don't realize that some of the experiences that we've had prior to that relationship is now beginning to sabotage our relationship. And that's because we are not, being willing to open up, to levels of intimacy. So please let us know on the chat. What do you think? Why do you think people come into relationship with barriers? or with walls, and why? How do you think they are able to navigate that?
Yeah, listening to you, something came to my mind. Obviously, some people don't even know that they've created relational walls. They just think this is how I am.
Yep.
This is who I am. I don't want people into my emotional space. And they may not even know that how they behave or those walls are product of their life experience. For instance, if a lady has gone through, let me use a lady as an example, doesn't mean that it's just applicable to only ladies. If a lady has gone through emotional trauma of having someone she trusted abuse her,
yep,
definitely that would create that sense of unsafe, will I say, that sense of fear or threat, feeling unsafe, because you know that any man who comes into your life may represent the person who abused you. So how do you deal with that? You just create a defense mechanism. And you can get into marriage
with that
mindset, and your husband touches you physically now.
Yeah.
And you're shouting, no, I don't want. And he's wondering, what's wrong with her? We are married. We need to do what married people do. And she may not even know that, obviously, why I'm reacting this way could be because of what I've gone through, until someone points her in the right direction to say, have you considered what your background is like? Mm-hmm. Maybe you're reacting this way because of what you've been through.
Yep.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to say is that some people feel safe. They don't even want to let go the wall because they feel protected. They feel like even if you decide and say to them, look, I think I've identified, these are some of the issues that you have to deal with. You have to go maybe seek counseling, go for therapy. No, they are just happy being in that safe space.
Yeah, but why? I think it resonates with what Foundation for Family Affairs just put out there. Fear of abandonment.
The fear of abandonment.
For instance, if I've gone through heartbreak, maybe when I was courting with, we were courting, and you broke my heart. It's good you did it. And now another woman is out there, and I'm trying to get connected to her.
Yep.
There is that possibility that I won't really open up, because in the first instance I opened up everything to you.
That's true.
You shattered my heart. Now I want to protect myself so that I don't go through that same experience again. So that someone doesn't, because I'm afraid I could be abandoned if I don't keep myself protected.
Yeah. I think there's another comment here talking about baggages from the past. So I think this kind of resonates with why people actually have got walls. So they got like certain baggages that they haven't quite come to face and say, look, I need to deal with this. I need to be better. I need to be able to navigate and create even a safe space for other people. Because sometimes if you haven't quite dealt with it, you become a threat to the people you love. You put them in harm's way emotionally. You begin to react in a way that people will begin to wonder what is wrong with him, what is wrong with her. But your emotions are finding expression in a way that is damaging the people that you care so much about.
Yeah, I think that point is very important, because most times people create barriers because of their past experience. Obviously, past experience, baggages of the past. And sometimes they don't want to let others know, because once you get closer to me or to someone, you have to be vulnerable first.
That's true.
You have to open up, and the person can see through in terms of who you are, what you've been through. And that's what makes you very transparent to that person.
That's true.
And once you do that, there is a possibility of rejection. There is also the possibility of someone judging you. There is the possibility of maybe you feeling inadequate, because you think with what they know about me, obviously, they may not accept me or love me the way they need to. But when it has to do with love, I think people should come to that point where you're confident enough that you can be open without fear of being taken advantage of. Yeah, because that's what intimacy is about.
Yeah.
And that also means that whoever is involved, the other person has so much role to play. I think we'll get to that point as we proceed.
Yeah. So please, guys, it's meant to be a conversation. And I know there are loads of people here, there are loads of experts, and people who actually are very passionate about this as well. So please, we want you guys to write on the comments if there are things that actually resonate with you, or there are things that you think this would be a meaningful contribution. Please do make that, because we're here to educate ourselves. We're here to have this conversation. Now we want to bring in someone. She is a doctor. And she's a doctor, right? Doctor of the eyes. And metaphorically, she is also a doctor in terms of she brings a lot of clarity of vision to people who come in contact with her. And she is an amazing woman. I love people introducing themselves for themselves. So I will bring her on board and I will let her do the introduction. Yes, I want to bring up Dr. Ezine Okulehi. So here you are. Welcome on board, Dr. Ezine.
Hello, Dr. Ezine.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much, Gospel. Thank you so much, Amara. Thank you for bringing me here today.
You're welcome. Do you want to introduce yourself to our audience, please?
You've done justice.
Okay, I don't know if it's me. I think her connection, she's breaking up a little bit. Okay, so we'll give her a bit of time and then we will bring her up again. Whilst we're waiting on her to come on, I can see a comment right here. Liz is saying sometimes they may not acknowledge it themselves.
Yeah, that's a solid point. That's a very important point. But my point to that is that behind every wall, every relational wall, it's important to note that there is a person who is trying to protect himself or herself.
Yeah.
There's a person who feels unsafe, even if he's in a marriage. Maybe you're married and you're trying your best to assess your spouse, and he or she is not giving you that opportunity. Know that there is something wrong. It could be what you've done in the past.
Yep.
Maybe the way you've spoken to her. I'm using her now from my own point of view. Maybe the way you have treated her in the past. That may be the reason she is not letting you in.
Yes, that's true.
So you need to think about your strategy to find out, one, what have you actually done and what can you do? I think she's back now.
Yes, she's back. Welcome back, Dr. Ezine. So
Thank
please
you so much.
Introduce yourself, and I think you were following on the topic that we've been talking about. Well, so we would also want to hear your views.
Did you say building?
Breaking relationship walls.
Okay, thank you so much, Amara. I'm sorry for that glitch in technical issues, basically. Okay, so
no way.
Technical issues. Stop this, man.
Why?
Okay, let's carry on while we wait for her to jump in again.
Yes.
Obviously, I think it's her network. So what we're saying is that safety is key. I think this is our nature, our instinct. Whenever there is anything that threatens you, could be emotionally, physically, whatever it is, you feel that sense of threat. You want to protect yourself. And if you've gone through an experience, sometimes people don't know how to handle it.
That's
so
true.
What they do is protect themselves.
That's true.
So I think rather than create a wall, it is better to heal. If you've been abused, if you've been disappointed, abandoned, it is better to understand the process of healing rather than blocking people from accessing you.
I think when you say healing, you make it sound so easy. You make it sound,
but that is what it is. Healing.
It is.
Even though the process may not be
I
simple.
understand that, but you first of all, the individual have to recognize why this is important. Because it's one thing for you to say, look, you need to heal. It's one thing for you to say, look, you need to walk this journey. It's one thing for you to say, look, you have to, you have to go through the process. But these individuals, have they come to understand that they really need this and embrace it for themselves? Because it's a journey, right? They have to understand why it is important for them.
Part of the healing process. Healing is not instant, it's a process. Part of the healing process is to actually understand why it is relevant for you not to create a wall. Part of the healing process is for you to think about the experience you've gone through and how you can sort it out so that you can move forward. Rather than being stuck in a particular point at a spot because you've gone through a bad experience. I'm talking in respect to those who are building barriers, who have built barriers because of their negative experience. Okay, that's my point. So if it happens within the marriage, rather than blocking your spouse out of your life, right? Because this happens a lot. If there are issues like conflict, sometimes a spouse may decide that the best way to approach it is to create that wall.
That's true.
But I'm saying that's not the best thing to do. You have to find a solution to the problem, deal with the problem, rather than creating a wall that would make it difficult for you to have a wonderful relationship with your spouse.
Yes, and I think that kind of echoes what Foundation for Family Affairs have just put on the chat here. He's saying that's true. Safety is key. So people really need to understand that they are safe, first of all, before they can begin to open up. Because I think in the first instance, the reason why those walls are up is because they want to have a feeling of safety. They want to have a feeling of I am protecting myself. I'm not going to expose myself to somebody who is just going to ridicule me or even going to make the matters worse. So yes, indeed, he is correct what he's just written. Safety is key. People are more vulnerable in a safe environment.
Yes, because there are so many complexities or so many angles to this. For instance, if a woman or a man in a relationship has been disappointed, betrayed, or there is infidelity, if I'll use that as an example, you have to find a way to shield yourself. It creates a block, complete shutdown in terms of connecting with your spouse. To have that thing happen, you need to, think about what's the root cause. How can we go back and talk about things that happen? How can we rebuild trust again before we can now shatter all the walls? If that has not happened, it becomes difficult to open up again. I don't want to use myself as an instance because it will be out of, I don't know. Imagine both of us, we have issues around infidelity. Do you think it's going to be that simple for us to...
That is a very sensitive issue.
That's what I'm saying. If that happens, it unravels a lot of things.
That's true.
You built trust over the years. How do you rebuild it now? I have to first protect myself before we start thinking about connecting back again. This is one of the reasons people build
have issues or build walls.
Build relational walls.
Another thing is a lot of times, like the instance you gave, some people feel, look, get on with it, right? It's happened. These things happen in relationship. Let's move on. Let's move on. Now, I want to say here, because sometimes people criticize other people for saying that maybe the man is forthcoming and the woman is maybe taking, or maybe it's vice versa. One of them kind of taking a bit of time to engage with the process, right? See, look, it's part of the process. You don't expect somebody, we all process things differently. We all process differently. So, and that is one of the issues here, because one thing is you've identified that, yes, there's an issue. Another thing is there has to be a lot of patience.
You're talking about patience.
There has to be, yes, because the thing is, some people blame the other person saying, look, I'm willing to move on.
Let's move on.
Let's move on. But we all take time. We process things differently, and you don't just expect somebody, because you've snapped out of it, somebody else needs to snap out of it. It's a journey. And
yeah.
I think this has created a lot of problems in relationship. Maybe not something as big as infidelity. Maybe the other little things that happen.
Yeah.
Maybe you're constantly asking me, or I say, "Oh, I'm sorry." For example, this issue of "I'm sorry." So you're constantly apologizing and apologizing, apologizing, to the point where your apology doesn't really count.
It's just like what you're saying. For instance, you've done something wrong, and you keep saying "I'm sorry."
Yep.
But rather than changing your action or behavior to align so that your action will align with the apology, you don't do that. You keep apologizing. And that is not in itself the solution to the problem. For me, I think the solution to the problem is going back to the basis. What is the root cause of this relational war? As an individual, think about yourself. Why am I not married? Why am I single? Have I shut people out of my life? Am I accessible? If I'm not accessible, why am I not accessible? Maybe you think, I don't want to engage with people, but you're not questioning why you don't want to engage with people.
Yep.
So it's time for you to think about it and reflect. Why is it that when a man or a woman comes into my space to create a kind of relationship, I try to shut them out?
Yep.
Why? So when you start thinking about the why, you will now find out what the problem is and start dealing with the root cause. Maybe
Absolutely.
in your marriage, it could be little by little, you're not happy with your spouse. Little by little, he or she has done something you don't like. Little by little, before you know it, you're not happy. You shut the person out. It could start with not talking with him or her. It could also extend to not having maybe physical interaction or intimacy. Before you know it, you're living like no emotional connection anymore. Because that wall, when you're building a house, it goes brick by brick. Before you know it, it's large. It becomes so thick. And to break it becomes an issue. So in this instance, what you need to do is what led us to where we are, and how can we untangle it? So for you to break that wall, you need to have that conversation with the person involved. If it's your spouse, you need to first personal reflection. Then when you know what the problem is, you can then raise it and address it, so that if there is a kind of connection and a kind of openness and understanding from the other partner or your spouse, then it helps you to deal with the issue and break the wall. Because the goal here, the end point here, is for intimacy to happen. So you're vulnerable and safe, you're connected and happy, because that's what successful marriage is all about.
Let me also say at this point that it's not automatic. The walls are not going to break down like the way you said it. Identify it, go on, and because I'm just trying to say that for some of the people listening to us, it's not automatic. It's not just going to shatter itself maybe in 1 day or 2 days or in a month. It depends. It's a process.
Yes,
so,
I agree
but
with
brick by brick, the walls will keep coming down when you've identified these issues. Now, I've got our guest here. I will bring her in right now, and hopefully things are going to stay in place. Yes, there you go.
Yeah,
Welcome back.
Thank you so much. Sorry for the glitch. I had to change everything from device to network provider. Thank you so much. So before I left, I was saying Amara had done justice, but my name is Ezine Okulehe. I'm an optometrist by profession. I'm also a thought leader, a self-actualization coach. My passion is to help leaders, visionaries unleash their greatness, live a life of impact, live a life of influence, and also live a life of affluence. That's it in a nutshell.
That's you. Go on.
Amazing.
So we want to ask you a question from your point of view. I think we've touched a bit on those barriers. What leads to those barriers? Can you, what leads to those barriers? Can you, in your own way, share with our viewers what we can do to shatter these barriers if they are there in our relationship?
Okay, so trying to shatter a barrier without understanding how the barrier first existed is like trying to put the cart before the horse. So before we shatter the barrier, we need to know, in fact, the how as to how the barrier came about will determine the methodology, as it were, to use to shatter the barrier. So I would like to say that I think they can be divided into two, what I call pre-existing barriers and presently existing barriers. What do I mean? So pre-existing barriers speaks to your experiences before you met your present significant other by virtue of how you were raised up, the environment you were raised, cultural orientation, your experiences, whether good or bad, will affect the way you relate with your present spouse. So if it were things that happened before you met your spouse, the first thing is communication between you and your spouse. I don't even understand why you should get married to somebody that you cannot trust, with your secrets, your challenges, your fights, all that you went through while growing up, so that person can even say, am I equipped, or am I ready to deal with this with you? And that doesn't necessarily mean make the person a bad person. There's just so much that each human being can take or each human being can live with. So one person may be able to live with somebody who has had mental breakdowns, just because of the way she was brought up. Maybe she was abused. Another person may not be able to. So looking at this objectively without coloring it emotionally, so we should be able to just, tell your spouse and say, or your intending spouse, as it were, okay, so these are the issues in my life. Is it something that you can handle? Will you be able to walk me through this journey, or how that support me on this journey? Better still, for me, I would prefer that we get married whole. I would prefer that we get married whole. So you're not going to allow somebody, as it were, give you meaning. So you just hold till you are healed completely before you get into marriage. Because what causes those barriers? That you're not healed, number one. Then you didn't even talk about it. And then you got into marriage, and all those things are coming up, it's fact, it's a very sad situation, because once there is no communication, once there's a barrier up, that relationship is already headed, nose diving for a fatal end, as it were.
Oh, that's
so should I talk about the present existing barriers? I should just leave it here.
Go
on for the present one.
Okay, so present existing barriers are the barriers that your spouse caused you to erect by virtue of how they related or did not relate to a particular circumstance during your marriage. I will explain. If I meet my spouse one time and tell him, oh, I don't know, I'm just feeling so bad, I say, why are you always feeling bad? Please get a hang of yourself, right? Or you did, or you just feel like I'm over emotionalizing things, or there's no listening ear. I wouldn't want to meet you again next time to say this is what I'm going through, right? So I would just take up a barrier. And women are specialists. They have, they have a PhD in this. So if a woman tells you about something 1, 2, 3, 4 times, if she's complaining, it means that she still has hope that something can be done. When she stops complaining, I think you should get scared, because at that time she's become numb. So don't worry, whatever it is, we live like that, or she has made up her mind to leave the marriage. So these are the two scenarios, as it were.
That's really deep what you've just said, in terms of pre and present barriers and how to deal with them. You talked about communication. Do you want to bring someone else?
Yes, I would love to bring someone else in. Dr. Izine, please just stay put. Don't leave. Let me just bring in someone else. Dr. Chukwudi.
Dr. Chukwudi, good to have you.
Oh, you're on mute. We can't hear you. We can see your lips moving. No, we can't hear you still. We can't hear you. For some reason, it's not coming through.
Okay.
Okay. So whilst he's still sorting out himself, it's been amazing what Dr. Izine has just brought, what she's actually brought to fore she's talked about pre-existing barriers, and she's talked about present barriers. And a lot of times we underestimate our spouse, we underestimate their experience. And I always say, don't trivialize somebody else's experience. Some people would say, why is she even feeling like this? Why is she oversensitive? Why is he oversensitive? The truth is that you don't understand the person's feeling because you're not that person.
I'm just thinking, how do we men, how do we process some of these things? I think for men, most times we tend to be quiet. We tend to internalize things, and if there are issues we are not happy with, most times
we don't talk about
communication
it.
may not be the best way to approach it. This is not a generalization, so to speak. So we try to deal with it and move on. And if we can't, then we'll find a way to bring it out there. When we start talking about it, means we've gotten to our wit's end. Okay?
Yeah. So let me bring in Dr. Chooks again. Hopefully your sound is fine now. We can't hear you still, sadly. I don't know why. Oh dear. Okay.
Testing your speaker on StreamYard. Sounds.
I think there's something playing in his background.
Yeah, we could hear his
music. Yeah, there's a music playing on your laptop. So yes, let's try again. Are you there? No, we can't hear you. I think there's something probably playing on your browser and you muted your laptop, and maybe when you turn that on, it kind of plays on. So maybe you want to check that, please.
So I think one of the ways to deal with some of these barriers is to, we talked about dealing with the root cause. Another way, like she said, is opening up a room for
conversation,
for communication. And I also think that whoever is involved, your spouse has a role to play. You have to work together as a team, and he or she needs to be patient with you, so that as you go through that process, you obviously become better. It might not be one-sided, it could be both ways, So once that happens, you have to work as a team. You have to provide that necessary support that is required for your spouse to, break those words.
Yep. Let me see if Dr. Chukwudi is back again. I don't know. Is your audio now? No, we can't. Sadly, we can't hear you. I don't know why. Oh my goodness. I don't know why we can't hear you. There's no sound at all coming through.
Maybe you can use a different
maybe device, a different browser or a different device, maybe. Okay. Let's see how things go. Okay, that's fine. Okay, we would wait for him to come back again. Now, the other thing I think is really, really important, whilst people on the chat, please guys, we need you guys to feed into this conversation as well, is to understand the triggers, understanding the triggers and the role or contribution to the triggers. Because sometimes when we say that our spouse, they're building their wall up, they're not accessible, they're not communicating, maybe it's our fault. Maybe we are the trigger. We are the trigger. We are the reason why these guys they're not opening up to us, they're closed up. So it's about identifying the triggers and having that honest conversation, being open to accept what you're told. Because sometimes you say to your spouse, oh, look, let's have an honest conversation. Tell me, what do you think about me? What do you think about me dealing with this situation? Look, when you ask that question, be willing to embrace the response. And when I say embrace the response, don't embrace it with a grudge, because it might not come in a way that you expect, because you're asking your spouse to do a reality check on you. You're asking your spouse to say, look, tell me for real, what do you think about me in this situation, right? So anytime you're asking your spouse to do that reality check, be open to whatever is being said, without any grudge, right? Because sometimes in a relationship, we are actually the triggers. We are the ones that trigger the walls being stacked up.
And when we are told what we need to do, it's also important that we have a plan on what we have to do to help to stop that barrier from being erected, or the walls from being erected going forward.
Yes. Okay. We'll bring Okay, that was the background. Sorry about that. I think there's another. It's a feedback. Okay, I think it's from your end.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you, but I will
A feedback.
I'm getting the feedback. Yes.
Can you still let me? My laptop is on, but I shouldn't expect that should be the feedback. There's no other sound.
Okay.
Is it gone now?
No, it's not. But tell us. If you can give us your view about and how people can deal with those walls.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to switch off my laptop just in case it's interfering. Okay. How people can keep down those walls is simple. The first thing is communication. I think it just rises and falls on communication between you and your spouse. Okay, let me put it like this. Communication between 3 people. Between you, 4 people. Between you and your God, you and yourself, you and your spouse. Finally, if need be, you and your therapist. You must be open in communication between these 4 people, and in that order, right? Because God created you. He knows what you've been through. So that's where to start from. I believe, I don't know if everybody here is a Christian, but that's where my foundation is. So that's it. So you and your God, right? First of all, then you and yourself. You need to tell yourself that there's a problem here. If you don't recognize the problem, you wouldn't understand the need for help, or the need to even communicate it to another person, right? And it's when you are discussing with yourself, as it were, that you now allow yourself to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is key. A lot of people see vulnerability as a weakness, but it's one.
Oh, wow. We've lost it there.
So
she's talking about vulnerability.
While we wait for her as well, I would say for those of you listening, if you can, just tell us, what do you think we can do to break some of these relational walls? Okay. Yeah.
Oh no, yes. Oh no. She was saying something so critical right there about vulnerability. So we would wait for her to come back. We've got Dr. Chukwudi now.
Hopefully.
He's back. Hopefully your audio works now.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, I went into the audio setting. Apologies, guys. The default setting didn't work, so I think I had to go and do some technical work.
Thank you.
No worries.
So
no worries.
I think from your backstage, you've heard some of the things we've talked about. Just chip in. We have talked about some of the causes of these relational barriers.
Okay.
So what do you think be the remedies and all of those?
Okay, first and foremost, I just want to thank Gospel and Amara. I think you guys have been quite fantastic on this platform. The things that you guys are doing, I think is inspirational. I myself am a partaker, and I just want to say God bless you both.
Thank you.
What you're doing, and hopefully I think all the viewers and listeners as well feel same. So breaking relational walls, I think the first thing to me that comes in is for me to really, coming from a business analyst point of view, I just want to understand the background, the context. What is a wall? So I looked at it in my head and thought about it and said, okay, a wall is more or less like a physical, non-physical structure that imposes a restriction, right? Somebody intentionally set it up to impose restriction or to protect. And that could be against an enemy, could be against something else. So that is a wall. And most often times than not, some of those walls kind of come because we think there's something an enemy within or without is trying to do, and unconsciously or consciously we now try to set up that wall. and some of the interest in that person setting up a wall might be because they, feel, they have a need for sexual gratification within the context of marriage, or they want to be able to have some financial stability, or it might be because they want to be respected, or they want to feel, treated well. So these are the things that leads to walls setting up. And once that wall is now set up, it is now, okay, we've established there's now wall. So how do you now go about breaking that wall? So forms of wall can be, walls of the heart, physical, like I did mention, non-physical walls. The walls that are non-physical, I term it as the most dangerous walls because you don't see them, and they are the matters of the heart. If you can see some walls, physical structure, you can actually make a move to break those walls. Even if the both parties don't want to, one can initiate to break that wall. But matters of the heart, there is building walls because of grief, because of bitterness, because of unforgiveness, or any such things. They are quite serious. I can see it. I can pretend with my spouse that all is well, but I'm actually have built a wall. She can't come in, or I can come in. Like I did mention, it might be sexual. So sexual because she, for a man, is quite sometimes different, because most of the time than now, men in sexual relationship can reach orgasm quite easily. For a woman, it doesn't. For a woman that doesn't reach orgasm, she might feel, oh, I'm not being sexually gratified in that situation, and then she starts building walls. She doesn't want to engage in such things. And how do we now break it? She needs to let you in, become vulnerable to tell you, okay, this is me. I don't feel I enjoyed it, and because of it, I don't even want to participate. When you touch me, I don't want to go into it. So she needs to be able to communicate that. And for the person to break that wall, you need to be able to listen as well. Communication is key, because she's now releasing that energy inside, that she has been built up. Then for the man, you need to pay attention. You now need to take an effort to say, okay, what do I need to do? How do I, come in to resolve this issue so that it doesn't build up? These are one example. Another example might be, the wall of anger. Somebody has communicated, I need this house in order. I need to be orderly. I need to leave this thing in this way. And once I've communicated that to my husband, but my husband is not hearing it over time. The first day that you communicated it, a wall might want to erect. That wall is still very fragile. You can just, by pushing, that wall can just collapse. But over time, some wall can become a concrete wall, fortified fortress, that to come in is difficult. And the way you break such wall is not the same as when that wall was first, you start to build the first wall. Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely.
So now that wall has been built, it might be a joke. I might crack a joke to my wife, and make some silly things. That wall that she's trying to build collapses. So a joke can help to collapse a wall. But when a wall now over time, because of repetitive attitude of not listening to your spouse's, desire that is not being met over time, it can lead to the wall becoming a concrete solidified wall. Once a concrete solidified wall is being built, how do I comment? I need to communicate. I need to find the root cause of that wall. But she or he needs to let you in first. They need to be able to communicate to say, dearie, or honey, this is where I'm having a problem, And it takes the courage to break a barrier, because you need to voice it out. If I don't have the courage to voice it out, then that barrier is still going to linger on. So that is the first thing that, to break a barrier. Allow somebody as well to heal. There's a time. So breaking barriers. So if something has repeatedly happened over time, I need to be able to allow my spouse to heal. And it might take 1 month, it might take 2 months. Repeating the same thing that leads to to that barrier being formed in the first place is not going to help that barrier to be broken. So, for example, if I'm constantly, criticizing my spouse, so criticism can lead to my spouse building emotional barrier wall against me. So if I have to constantly, without allowing her to heal over time from that, it will lead to that barrier not being broken. So first thing, communicate, allow for the person to heal. Forgiveness is also another thing. Setting goals, realistic goals, is also another thing that we have got to do to be able to break a barrier. So you know that this barrier that we're facing is a solidified wall that has over time been built. So we now need to say, okay, what do we now need to do? So over the next 1 month, I'm going to practice the act of saying sorry immediately. I'm going to practice the act of, if the barrier was formed because I lack act of service, I'm going to practice act of service intentionally for the next 1 month until it starts forming a habit in me. So that's another way to break a barrier. So go to action. And if all is left in the hand, so if all is left in the mind, right? Okay, I've heard you, I've heard what my spouse says about her problem, why a barrier has been built. Without any action, nothing is going to be done.
Wow. That's absolutely brilliant what you've said. You've said quite a lot. If we want to unpack them or elaborate on them, we wouldn't leave here today. I think Foundation for Family Affairs, they've also reiterated your point. It takes courage to break barriers. That's really what it is. Because if you've gone through something, it means you need to be vulnerable. To be vulnerable, you have to be courageous because you don't know what will happen at the end, how your spouse is going to take it. I like one thing you said. Have an action plan.
Yep.
You have to create a plan on how your recovery plan, if I will rephrase it.
Yeah.
Have a recovery plan. And recovery plan requires both parties to engage. Yep. So the person, even if you're not the one who created the barrier or your actions did not lead to the barrier, you need to have a plan on how you're going to support your spouse to go through that phase. And it takes time to heal. So thank you very much.
Another thing
there is something I've as well mentioned here is make peace offering. Peace offering in breaking a barrier will work. Let's say if the barrier is not a concrete wall. So something happened, your spouse didn't, listen to your advice or what you recommended, and all of a sudden something went wrong. Instead of that person now starting to build that wall of resentment or anything, a peace offering immediately can help to break that wall before it lingers on.
Can you give us an example of peace offering?
Sorry?
I wanted to ask if you can give us an example of peace offering.
Okay, yeah, well, peace offering could be, what she really likes, and you go to the shop immediately and grab that. That's an example of a peace offering. If she's into flower, you get it. If she's into handbag, go and get a good handbag and bring home.
I'm sure you've been practicing that.
I do practice peace offering.
Thank you. Thank you.
There's something he said that was very profound. He talked about setting goals. Now, I love the fact that you mentioned that, because sometimes people only talk about goals when it's in the business or when it has to do with something they feel is a bit more structured. Now, if you also look at your relation, setting goals means that you are being intentional. You're being intentional about what you want to do in terms of how do we go about navigating or breaking down these walls. Really important. And this goal should not be a lifetime goal, because there's something he also said, you don't keep apologizing all the time, and then it gets to a point where, she wouldn't see value in that.
It depends on the goal. I like what he said in terms of those goals. When you start them, it becomes a habit. When they become a habit, it's now a natural thing to do. You don't need to be forceful about it because that's who you are. Okay?
Absolutely.
Wow. I would say, I don't know if you have a parting comment before we go, because we have to keep to time here.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So, pattern comment. I was gonna say that just we should be aware that walls do form. Walls are formed because we as individuals have, failed, whether it was intentional, most often times is not intentional. It comes as a result of laxity from our both sides. So you know that your spouse is an act of service human being. He or she likes orderliness, or she likes to be proactive in things. She likes you both to reason something out before you set off to go and do something. Don't run off on your own to carry out something. It should be unanimously agreed. If you know such thing, don't break such thing, because it's going to lead to war. One off might be an excuse, or I let you off. Second, I let you off. Third. But when it is repeatedly, it means like it can be perceived as derogatory, it can be perceived as lack of respect, and a war can be built. So, but when a war is built, try easily to try forgiveness, try to communicate, try to open up. Sometimes we men, we don't want to open up easily. We're not quite vulnerable, because sometimes you feel if I say that again, it might lead us into the same cycle. But it's better to really find a way to open up and say it. Drop it with kindness, drop it with constructiveness, the words, where that hurts. So it doesn't hurt the other person. And then, set a plan.
Amazing.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chukwudi Exe, for having come on our platform today. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Just a disclaimer, I've not yet got my doctorate yet, but I'm a business analyst and I'm in the field of IT. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
You mixed him up with his wife. That's what happened.
It's my wife.
My wife is a doctor, so you're a doctor. So
yeah, my wife. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wow, it's been an amazing conversation today. I don't know what our viewers have to say about this. What has been your light bulb moment, or what is your contribution to this event? Just let us know on the chat. It would be great to have to read those out and to be sure that this was a time well spent. Something he did say that was really important is that walls can be created. Walls can be created. Now, it is our responsibility to be intentional about our relationship, be intentional about breaking down those walls or having those conversations that would lead to those walls being broken down.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's wonderful having this conversation, and I look forward to reading your comments. What are the ways you have implemented in your relationship in terms of breaking walls? It might not be concrete walls. It could be those walls you can actually push down and they crumble. Just tell us on the comments as we wrap it up for today.
Yep. It's been an amazing conversation, and thank you for everyone who has stayed right through to the end. We value you. This is the reason why we do what we do. We cannot be here if you are not here, or else we'll end up talking to ourselves. So thank you so much for being present and being here with us today. Okay, we would love to read from you, and it's been an amazing time. For those who are joining in for the first time, please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you can, and follow up on some of the content that we've put out there. It's been an amazing conversation. So it's a goodbye from us today. Okay, I know. Yes. Foundation for Family Affairs just put a comment. Walls can be pulled down. Thank you for putting this together. Amazing. Thank you for joining in as well. We appreciate you guys, and we see all you do. Amazing. Have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.